Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Absolute Falcon Cinema. I'm your host, Caleb, and in case y'all are new here, this is the place where I talk everything movies and the art of cinema. And for this episode, I thought I would run down all of the movies I saw in this past month, in the month of February. I would do a recap of all of those movies, do like a little mini review for each of them, and rate them for all y'all. So without further ado, let's just jump right into it. Starting off, the first day of February, I rewatched Piece by Piece. This is the third time that I've seen it, and it is a biopic that came out 2 years ago about the musician and producer Pharrell Williams, and it is told entirely through Lego pieces. So it's really unique seeing all of these people, like these real life people, being put into like Lego minifigures. And there's a lot of famous musicians that show up alongside Pharrell, and you get to see their Lego minifigure form. And it's a really creative movie overall. I really enjoyed it. I watched it with my family, and they all had a good time. And yeah, I think it's one of the better Lego movies out of all the Lego movies that I've seen. I grew up watching the Lego movies as a kid, so I have a certain amount of nostalgia towards them. But Piece by Piece, really solid Lego movie. I'm going to give that a 7 out of 10. Then I rewatched Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. This is the third installment in the Harry Potter series, and it is based on the book by J.K. Rowling. And this movie has the appeal of having a new director. Every director for every Harry Potter movie is different, except for the last 3 or 4 of them, I believe. And Prisoner of Azkaban is directed by Alfonso Cuarón, who is a Spanish director, and his whole shtick is that he is a very talented filmmaker. He has a lot of very dynamic cinematography, a lot of camera movement that sort of wraps around the characters in really interesting ways, and his movies are usually a lot darker. The other movies he directed include Gravity and a few other Spanish films, but his whole thing is he always reads the back of the book and then adapts that from there. Obviously, he had help in the cast and crew in the accuracy to the book and how accurate that was, but going through only the back of the book going into the film, he really puts his own fingerprints on the source material, and it's done really effectively. It's great not only as an adaptation, but as a movie itself. It's very thrilling, and I think it's really the only one out of the Harry Potter movies that I've seen that I can say is confidently better than the first book, or better than the book that it's adapting. I haven't seen all of the Harry Potter movies. I've only seen the first 3, and I'm going to watch through the rest of them with my brother eventually, because he's a big fan of them too. But for now, this is probably my favorite. The third one is my favorite out of the first 3. And it's really well made. I'm going to give Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban a 9 out of 10. Next up, I watched Boyhood, and I did an episode about this on my podcast already. You can go check that out. And wherever you're watching this, whether it be Spotify or YouTube, it's a little movie review. It's really long. But Boyhood is a coming-of-age story, a classic coming-of-age story, but it has the gimmick of being filmed over 12 years and having the casting crew age up along with the progression of the film. And I think that was done really well. I was personally very surprised about how consistent it was. I thought that over time, the filming from 2002, I believe, to 2014, I believed that the style would change over time, but I was actually proven wrong. It is the exact opposite. The style and direction is very consistent over all the entirety of the film, and I thought that was very impressive. It could have cut down a little bit on the screen time. I do believe the movie dragged on a couple of times, but I didn't find that too detracting from my overall experience because I am usually a very patient viewer and I didn't really have as much of a problem as other people may have. But yeah, Boyhood was a great time. I think I'm going to give that 7 out of 10. Next up, I rewatched Warrior, and I did this in preparation for my sports podcast episode. And I did that with Mr. Locke, our EK football team's offensive coordinator. And that was a great time. Warrior is a sports movie. It's about MMA, but it's also a very emotional movie about two brothers and their relationship with one another. As they are both MMA fighters, they step into the ring, and all of the stakes are built up at the first half of the movie. And then the second half, it's all released very cathartically. If you want to hear a little bit more about the movie, I would recommend checking out the episode I did with Mr. Locke. But I love Warrior. I think it's a great time. I think it's very emotional, it's very moving, and it's very satisfying watch overall because that setup and payoff. Warrior is a textbook example of how you pull that off in a story effectively. So I'm going to give Warrior a 10 out of 10. It is a phenomenal movie, super underrated. I would wish more people have seen that. So if you haven't watched that already, I would highly, highly recommend Warrior. The less you know about it going into it, the better. So, yeah. Next up, I watched Friday Night Lights for the first time. And Friday Night Lights is the other movie I went over with Mr. Locke on the other episode. But that movie is one he recommended to me that I haven't seen before. And it's a football movie about this county in Texas and this football team of high schoolers who have a devastating injury at the beginning of the film from their star player and have to pull forward as they go along. And I loved Friday Night Lights. Or I would say I didn't enjoy it as much as Warrior, but Friday Night Lights was still a very enjoyable time. I loved the viewing experience. I watched it with my brother, and we had a great time with it. And the film itself is very visceral in showing all of the good and the bad of high school football and what it does to people, both the adults and the kids. And I thought that the dynamics, especially the different relationships between the characters, were really compelling, were really complex. And I think that as a film, it's a little bit dated. It released in 2004, so that makes sense. But I do think that it is a very rewarding experience, especially towards the end where it tricked me into thinking it was going to be something, but it ended up being something else entirely. I don't want to spoil it too much because I want people to check this movie out, but it is a very rewarding experience. I had a great time with it. I think I'm going to give Friday Night Lights a 7 out of 10. Next up, I rewatched The Thing, and this is a horror film from the 80s, and it is very famous for its practical effects and for the way that it almost pretty much directly inspired Among Us, the video game. I know, right? It's this idea of having an imposter among this crew of people and having to figure out who it is, a shape-shifting person. And The Thing pulls that narrative off arguably perfectly. I think that it is one of the best representations of practical effects in film, where it is so grotesque in some moments that it sort of turns around into being an art. You see all of the work that was put into these models and these scaling of this giant creature, and it's very impressive. You get to see all of the craftsmanship that went into those practical effects on screen, and I saw it in 4K on my 4K disc, so it looked very detailed and very gross, and it was a great time. I highly recommend The Thing. It is a really captivating movie that pulls you in from start to finish, and it's just an incredible experience with an ending that most people would not expect. I'm going to rate The Thing a 10 out of 10. Next up, I watched Inglorious Bastards for the first time with my friend. It is a Quentin Tarantino film, and it is set in Nazi occupied France, and it is a World War II film. And typically, I'm not much of a war movie guy, but I went into it with an open mind. I love some of Tarantino's other works. His movies have a very distinct style that you see it and you think, oh, that's Tarantino. A certain style in the way he writes a scene, a way he approaches a scene in a film, and the way that he builds tension. All of it is showcased in full force in this film to great effect. It's very smart. It's very tense. It's very funny. There's a lot of funny characters throughout the film. The villain is very intimidating. He's played by Christoph Waltz, and he speaks 4 different languages throughout the whole film. And he is just a scary dude. He plays a scary dude in that film. One of Tarantino's best villains for sure. And overall, Inglourious Basterds was a great time. I am still debating it, but I think it might be my favorite Tarantino film to this day. It used to be Pulp Fiction, but I am thinking this one is probably my new favorite because of just how smart it is and how incredibly entertaining it is. So I'm going to give Inglourious Bastards a 10 out of 10. Maybe a 9 out of 10. A high 9 out of 10. Very, very enjoyable movie. Would highly recommend. Then I went to the theater for the first time in a while. I think the second time in 2026, but the last time I went was like at the very beginning of the year. So it's been a while. But I went and saw Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die. And it is a sci-fi compilation film directed by Gore Verbinski. And Gore Verbinski is the same guy that directed the Pirates of the Caribbean films, fun fact. And this is a very screwball comedy horror sort of film. And it's very Everything Everywhere All at Once coded, where there's a bunch of weird shit happening, and half the time you don't know what's going on. There's just stuff is just happening. But it's a very enjoyable movie anchored by Sam Rockwell, who plays the main character, who is this time traveler from the future that tries to go to this bar and recruit an exact combination of people that will help him defeat this AI that is trying to wipe out humanity. And it's very enjoyable. A lot of it plays out like multiple episodes of Black Mirror, sort of stitched together by this main story, because all of the people that he chooses have their own backstories that are these really weird sci-fi elements are incorporated into each of their stories. I don't really have a lot to say about it because it's such a wild film that a lot happens at once, and most of the time you don't really know what to make of it. But I found that it surprised me how dynamic and pretty telling of our current times, but also being really cool, a really fun experience at the same time. I haven't been that floored by a movie of that style since Snowpiercer, which I saw, I think, 2 years ago. And Snowpiercer is very similar, where it's a sci-fi dystopian, and it's really awesome. It's a really great watch. I would recommend going to the theaters and checking out Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die. If you liked Everything Everywhere All at Once, chances are you will like this film. It's very cool, very dynamic, and very entertaining. It's a great time. I'm going to give that an 8 out of 10. Now let's see. Next up, I watched Crazy Stupid Love for the first time, and that is a comedy from 2011 starring Steve Carell and Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone and a few other actors. And it's a very weird and wacky movie. One might even say it's a crazy, stupid movie. Don't ignore me. I would say that while I was watching it, half the time I was like looking at my parents and being like, what's happening? This is so weird. Not everything in the film ages super well either. Like there's a lot of dynamics that Ryan Gosling has with like the women and how he treats them. And there's also this really, really weird subplot with a 13-year-old trying to hook up with a 17-year-old, and that just being super awkward and pretty uncomfortable to watch as well. So, I Crazy Stupid Love is not a movie I would have seeked out if it weren't for my dad who wanted me to watch it with the family, and it was entertaining. It was pretty funny at times, but I think mostly I was just super weirded out by it. I thought it didn't age very well, and it's not a comedy that I would actively seek out. So I'm gonna give it a probably a 3 out of 10. Or no, that's a little harsh. I'm gonna go with a high 4, low 5 out of 10. It's enjoyable. It's funny. It's very weird and very awkward at times. Then I rewatched Weapons. I rewatched this with my dad because he had interest in seeing it. And Weapons is a movie that came out last year. That is a horror mystery movie that is directed by Zach Kreger. And he's been on a bit of a high streak these past couple years. He previously directed Barbarian, and that was a very acclaimed horror movie when it came out. I haven't seen it. I still need to watch Barbarian. It's on my list, but Weapons is a great time. It's split up into like this saga of characters, and it's a very unique way of structuring a movie. It reminds me of Tarantino, how he splits all of his movies into chapters, but each chapter represents a character and how each character handles this mystery, and the story progresses as it goes along. And it turns into something that nobody really expected. And it's an either you love it or you hate it sort of reveal towards the back half of the film where it becomes something that you didn't expect. But I really loved it. And I think my dad did too. It's a very good, very well made horror flick that I would highly recommend to anyone who wants a good mystery and wants a good original movie that has came out recently. 2025 was, looking back on it, a phenomenal year for original movies, and Weapons is one of the great examples of that sort of movie. What I mean by original movie is a movie that it is not a sequel, it's not a remake, it's not based off of any pre-establishing source material. It's an original story, and Weapons is a great time. I'm going to give Weapons an 8 out of 10. Next up, I went to the theater and saw Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie. And unlike Crazy Stupid Love, this is a comedy that I had a great time with. I dare say it, I might even say the funniest movie I've seen in years. It is a brand new movie that is indie and it's Canadian, and it stars these two guys who want to, or who are in a band and want to perform at a venue in Canada, in Toronto. And they come up with all of these sorts of bizarre plans, these crazy stunts that they do, publicity stunts, in order to get recognized by this venue. And it's a movie that I didn't know anything about going in, other than apparently it was like one of the best movies of the year, and it blew a lot of people away. And I would say I was pretty blown away as well. I think that the way that the story flows is so weird and out of left field, but it just works. It's a comedy that's very sincere, and a comedy that doesn't treat the people that are in it like idiots. The movie was shot in a mockumentary sort of style, so there's a lot of real people, like just everyday people that show up in the movie that are like observing the main characters and what they're doing, like these crazy stunts, and it never portrays them as like idiots or stupid people or anything. It portrays the lead actors. They're the idiots in the story, and that's what makes it so wholesome and very heartwarming. Is you're just seeing these dudes pull off this crazy stuff, and the people that are observing them are like, oh, what are you doing? But it's like so wholesome. The director of the film, Matt Johnson, he never puts them in a situation where uh they're like put in a bad light or anything like that. It's all very planned out and very smart too. In the middle of the movie, they add this time travel mechanic to it, which makes it seem, or which turns the movie into a giant Back to the Future homage. And I was not expecting that at first, and I was going along with it. And a lot of the stuff was them filming back in the year 2008, where they time travel and interacting with their old selves. And half of the time I was watching it and thinking, oh my gosh, like, how did they film this? They had a bunch of footage, obviously, where they were interacting with, what they were doing the show, and their future selves come and interact with their past selves. And it's very smart editing, very smooth editing, in particular with the two like selves that are like the two versions of themselves that are both interacting are in the same room, and that and the stunts. Half the time you're watching the movie and you're thinking, "Oh my gosh, how did they get this on film?" Because a lot of times you're thinking, how are they filming this right now? Are any of them allowed to film this? That kind of shtick. And I had a great time with this film. It's super funny. Every single joke that they have hits really hard, and a lot of the material, especially once they get into the time travel mechanics, is just hilarious. I went into the theater with by myself, and it had a group of people in it, and we were all having a great time watching this film, and it's really incredible. I would say I would recommend this movie to anybody, and it's not every day where you see an indie film like this being heavily praised and getting a limited run in theaters, and people are saying such positive stuff about it. That's why I checked it out. I'm not usually much of an indie guy, but this film got so much buzz that I just had to check it out. And I would say it's very, very much worth the hype. I think I'm going to give Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie, a 9 out of 10. It's a phenomenal film. And finally, as of today's filming, the most recent movie that I saw in the month of January is The Fablemans, and I rewatched it. It's Steven Spielberg's most recent movie, and it is a semi autobiography about his life and how he grew up wanting to pursue film and want to be a filmmaker, and his dynamics with his family apparently are very accurate to real life. And you watch these characters interact and live out their lives. And it's a movie that's very well written. It's a movie that's very well shot. I loved the cinematography. Spielberg, when he gets behind a camera, he always knows what he's doing. So his movies look very dynamic and very expertly filmed. And with this film, Spielberg sort of took visuals from like sort of like a dreamlike sort of look and added a sort of tangibility to it. Added his own style to it. So that's a movie that's very colorful, but it's a subtle sort of coloring that feels very dreamy, very not abstract, but very warm and fuzzy, and it's a unique look for a movie that I rarely see pulled off in the way that Spielberg did with this film. But alongside that, it's a movie about wanting to make movies. It's really clearly encapsulates his love for film and how, as he was growing up as a kid, he was just super passionate about the arts and the different things that he took out of it, the emotional, the physical, the all of that played into this really warm and very emotional love letter to cinema itself, in the form of this movie, The Fablemans. And I really enjoyed it on a rewatch. I thought that it is a very smart film, a very moving film at times, and also one that I can see a lot of people, especially film majors or up and coming filmmakers that are just trying to get a job somewhere, will really relate to and really feel seen by this movie. And that is why I think I'm going to give The Fablemans a 9 out of 10. I think it's very well made. It's very heartfelt. Spielberg puts his whole story like up for everyone to see. And he does it in a way that's not pretentious, that's not egotistical, that's just really soft and really emotional, very moving. That is all for that I have for today. Those are all the films that I went and saw. I plan on going to the theater more often, especially in the next month of March, where there is more stacked release schedule. But if there are any movie recommendations that y'all have for me, feel free to share with them with me on my Instagram. I post regularly. You most likely you got notified about this episode on Instagram. Feel free to check out my other podcast episodes as well. I now post on YouTube and Spotify, both at the same time. That is the project that I was working on this past week that has delayed scheduling episodes a little bit. But please check them out. I appreciate all of the support that you viewers have given me. The fact that you're listening to this right now, it means the world to me. And yeah, I wish you all listeners the best of the best. And in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night. This has been some absolute Falcon Cinema. Take care, y'all.